Welcome, everybody, to our Sunday Truth Talk. My name is Jona Bryndis. I'm a professional energy healer and energy therapist. And I want to talk to you about the energetic view of things. So today we have this theme I called Out Vibrating Low Vibes. Those of you who are in my email list have already received an article that goes with this, and I would like to discuss with you guys what this low vibe, high vibe, what energies are, what this even means. All right, so let's dive right into it. You can ask questions at any time here on Facebook, on YouTube Live, or on Instagram. If you see my eyes toggling here between those different screens, so forgive me for not always being able to hold the eye contact with you. Yes, what are low vibes? Who of you has a feeling for what low vibes feel like for you? We are living in a time here that has a lot of bombardment, and for some reason, and this is the very interesting part for people like me who research the human nature, we also have equally many people developing higher levels of energetic sensitivity. And this seems to go hand in hand. Canada, I can see you. I'm wondering if we have a good video here. I see only green stuff on my screen. I hope you guys, can you give me a quick feedback? How are you guys on Instagram doing? Do you have a good video, a good audio? How are you guys on Facebook doing? I see your hearts. Thank you so much. All right, there's a little bit delay, so I won't be able to answer that question until... All right, wonderful. Thank you guys for your feedback. Oh, good here. Okay, thank you for your feedback. That's actually part of what I want to talk about today. But let's go back to the initial meaning of low vibes, all right? So I've asked a question here, and that was, do you have a feeling for what it feels like when you are in a low state, when you are either exposed or when your own system goes into a lower vibe state? Who knows what that feels like? And what does that normally feel like to you? Arizona, I see you. Indiana, I see you. Yes, Canada, guys. Thank you so much. And thank you for your hearts. What does it feel like when you go into low vibes? Well, let's investigate the word vibes first of all. Okay, so don't expect me to represent here the populistic opinion about energies and vibes and so forth. My job is to teach people, to explain people, to train people. This is what I do, all right? So for me, it's very important that you just don't take my word for it. It's not as mystical as it all sounds. I want you to learn how to verify this for yourself. So when we are trying to figure out what lower vibes are, which ultimately is of course needed to know what we need to do to get past them, to get over them, to out-vibrate them, as I call them. And the word out-vibrating here gives you a hint, namely that it might be just a matter of us choosing or, focusing on where we want our vibes to be. But sometimes that's harder than at other times. And right now we are in a time like that. Right now we're experiencing quite a bit of bombardment from the outside. In the energy tips that I publish for the Patreon supporters and heart warriors here at transCODES, I go a little deeper into this, and I illuminate the physical, emotional, mental, social, spiritual, and energetic aspects of that. But let's take a step back here and investigate what these vibes even are, okay? So there is obviously the 3D-ness that we all have, which manifests in our physical, in our emotional as well, and even if most people are not aware of this, in our mental, in our thinkingness. There's something like a collective field around us, all right, that sort of carries the information of all people here on this planet. And, we are 7 billion people now, so it's actually not a surprise that these vibes, these collective vibes, that they are becoming more intense. All right, so this is something that we just have to keep in the back of our minds, even if we are, if we are focused on an evidence-based or as a scientific a view of things. Okay, there is an undeniable aspect here of all us humans here on this planet, and that is that we are growing in population, and it is kind of logic, all right, to assume that there is more going on when there is more people. The energetic view of things, and don't get me wrong here, this is not sort of the scientific view that I want to lay out for you guys here, because the word energy makes it sound like something that is that is tied to this Newtonian, this evidence-based 5 sense 3D reality. But the energetic view brings in a new view, and that is the overall flow of things. And whether you believe in God or have any kind of a spiritual understanding of things is actually irrelevant. There's one thing that we can observe even as a scientist, and that is that things seem to affect another. Okay, so just because we cannot prove the origin of energies or the quality of energies, we can clearly observe the effects of energies. We can observe it on the material, like the rocks and the water and all the things that are based on matter. Okay, so we can observe the effects of energies on matter. We can observe the effects of energies on our moods, on our physical bodies as well, and our psyche. And that is something in the history of mankind that always preceded sort of a new scientific breakthrough, something that indicates that there is something, just like, when they discovered germs, that they couldn't see germs up until then and didn't know what caused diseases. They thought it was a punishment from God, according to the mindset, the belief set that existed at the time. And it wasn't until our microscopes became good enough that we could measure, or that we could see, that we could make the unseen seen, that we could make the unconscious conscious, that we were able to shift our paradigm to recognize that things like diseases aren't really some kind of spiritual consequence of something, but that they are actually caused by germs that are constantly around us. And the same is happening right now with energies. So if I just look at how younger people refer to certain perceptions and how they describe their own states, the use of the word energies is much more common and socially accepted today. That wasn't the case when I grew up. But in general, I think as humans, we've all agreed to recognizing that there's something like an unseen reality here for us that affects us, that can affect us on all these different levels, all right? And so our job here as consciously awakening people, as people who align themselves to truth, who want to see through, whatever the unseen or the unconscious was. For us, it's relatively clear that there are energies out there, and we talk about energies in different ways. We talk about collective energies, which is basically sort of this fuzzy field around all us humans. But what actually happens when all these energies, these outer energies, right, when they interact with us? Is there anything we can do to well, separate them, or to choose which energies we want to interact with and how they affect us, and what actually happens when we get sort of bombarded or hit by outer energies, and how does our inner energy play into this? Does it matter where we were at the time when we were bombarded with energies? Those are all very important questions that I would like to discuss with you guys here, because so many of the spiritual new age schools, or dogmas, they never actually ask those questions. So as awakening people, as people who align themselves to truth, I really want you to ask all these questions. All right, it's very, very important. And my suggestion for you is to first really understand that, that the existence of energies, even though we cannot prove them in the 3D-ness of our current scientific paradigm, is no longer controversial. Whether it's biology, whether it's psychology, even medicine. Okay, we have psychosomatics, we have bioenergy, we have biophysics, in communication therapy, in communication theory. We know that sort of collective thought processes can, sort of jump from one person to another. We have epigenetics that show us that, the development of a skill on one side of the planet can lead to the same species picking up on that on the other side of the planet. So it is no longer really a question whether there are energies. It's only a question of what do they do, and who controls them, and can we control them? And the truth of the matter for us energetically sensitive people, that I just call you this way right now, it's a fuzzy word. I'm not referring to what psychology refers to as highly sensitive people. That's a little different. Those are in the pathological model, sort of people who are oversensitive. I'm calling you energetically sensitive people because you are feeling, you are experiencing something that allows you to ask these questions. You are questioning the 3D reality, and rightly so, in my view. So this is sort of my premise here, with which I'm talking about energies, okay? And these energies, all right, as a fuzzy term, yeah, they represent something or trigger something in us that keeps us going. It is a power as well as something that determines the quality of our life, namely in the sense of that they're either life supporting, life confirming, life embracing, and basically increasing our life force, or that contract us, that limit us, that make us feel, really sort of restricted in the way we perceive our physical, our emotional, our mental energies. All right, so I prefer the word life force, just like how some of the ancient teachings, Eastern teachings, refer to chi, as just like basically the representation of life force that keeps everything in this world here together. All right, and when we talk about higher vibes and lower vibes, what we're really referring to is the energetic power of this life force. All right, so when we are experiencing high vibes, we are experiencing a strong influx of life force. We are experiencing joy, fulfillment, freedom, the full expression of, of who we are. Things seem to be in a flow. Things seem to come easy to us. Things feel very connected. We can, relate to, what is going on, and we don't have to react to things. We don't have to feel like a victim. We feel in power. So this is what high vibe actually means. It means that we can feel ourselves and that we can express ourselves freely, and that we can also allow everything else around us to do the same thing, because we understand that that is high vibe, that is mutual, it is supporting, yeah, it is something that provides fulfillment, expression, connectedness, and freedom to everything. And we talked a lot about high vibe stuff here in the last weeks, like high vibe relationships, high vibe diet, high vibe, choices. And today I want to look at what happens when we are in low vibes. And here, the first thing to realize is just like how, the weather on our planet oscillates, how we have low pressure and high pressure energy weather conditions, whether we have seasons, currents, streams, and so forth. We observe the same thing with energy. So there are, energetic waves that come through the sort of the human collective. And this is basically what I read out. This is how I do forecasts. This is how I do the energy tips. I read out these waves, all right? And this requires me and anyone else, who wants to learn, energy awareness, to shift my perceptivity, to shift my perception from just my subjective perception, as in like how I experience this for myself, into a larger realm, into a larger bandwidth. And that is, how am I experiencing it? How am I witnessing these larger energetic bands around me, which is then the so-called witnesser mode that we often refer to here in energy healing, all right? So we learn to augment our reality by accepting that there is a larger reality in the unseen. The problem with this is that we often, through our subjective experiencing, that we get caught in what we believe is only happening for us. And we also, because we have these mindsets, these beliefs that we are primarily a body here, okay? This is the ego impulse that we all get, that has to do with our survival and self-preservation and so forth, that when we are experiencing low vibes, we naturally assume that this is something in us, or that this is originating in us. And here, this augmented reality helps to understand that, just like with weather conditions, that these things all oscillate and fluctuate around us. It's only natural then to conclude that, the way we perceive them, the way we experiencing them, is also fluctuating. And this is very, very important, guys. In energy healing, this is probably the most important paradigm, to recognize that all our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic conditions are really just states, energetic states that we are in at a given moment. So when we go low, as described here earlier, when we go into a restricted, into a limited energetic state, no matter what triggered it, all right, the truth of that state is that we are indeed restricted in what we can see. Our perception becomes restricted. It becomes very limited. We might sort of get caught in the pain, or in fear, or in whatever it is that we believe is happening, all right, gets us basically caught in this lower vibratory state. And when this happens, it's very important to know that these higher states are still there. They still exist. It's like, believing that the sun is gone on a cloudy day, or that there is no daylight at night, okay? Because we can't feel it at that moment. In a lower vibratory state, we cannot actually feel this life force in its full expression, and therefore our emotional response to that, and also the beliefs that we form, the conclusions, the contextualizations that we form around this are limited. They're very restricted. And this is why lower vibratory states, low vibe states, why they create this downward spiral in us. So from an energetic point of view, lower states are, or low vibe states are states that come with a downward spiral. That if we don't do anything about it, it's going to pull us lower. And higher vibratory states are states that come with an upward spiral, that come with an expansive quality, with an self-propelled quality. It comes with, things such as self-healing, awareness, embracing, letting go, forgiveness, compassion, and so forth. Whereas these constricted places, these low vibe states that we can get caught in, they come with hostility, with fear, with feeling imprisoned, feeling entrapped, all the way to apathy, feeling that we are being damned, and even lower, not seeing any sense in life anymore. So this is basically the main difference between high vibe and low vibe states, namely the quality of their propensity, so where they're going. So if you are in a high vibe state, you don't really have to do anything to feel better about yourself, because it emerges from within yourself. But if you are in a lower vibratory state and you don't do anything about it, you're going to go lower. And those of you here on Facebook and YouTube see a infographic here on your screen. Sorry, Instagram doesn't allow this to do. That shows you sort of the how we perceive lower vibratory and higher vibratory states, and also the transition between them, and how this can affect how we are experiencing ourselves. And I want to go through this with you here real quick, because one of the big skills that we need to learn in order to discern our energetic state, yes, in order to out-vibrate it, all right, is to be able to qualify it. We have to be able to identify what state we are in, all right? That's why my first question for you was, do you know what this feels like? Yes, Amanda, it feels dark, it feels suffocating. Exactly. And if you look on the screen here, you can clearly see. So let's focus for a second here on the green layer, the neutral state. And this is a state of truth. This is a state of courage. We might not have solutions yet, but we do recognize that we have a choice. This is what these truth talks are really about. My job as a sort of human TrueSelfRadio person here is to educate you and to give you the energy to have the courage to understand that you have a choice by seeing the truth of things. Because when we are able to see truth, we can discern. And when we can discern, we can choose. So this is one of the qualities of lower vibratory states, namely that we are no longer able to choose, or at least that we don't see ourselves being able to choose. But if you look at the descriptors here, guys, of the lower vibratory, the more the yellow, orange, reddish states, you'll see that there's an arrow down. This represents the downward spiral of it, and there's different layers of this. So this can help you to identify how low you are. Okay, so most of us here in the first world societies experience our life as something that is not really determined by ourselves. We feel controlled, we feel judged, we see ourselves through the eyes of others. We are forming sort of a personality, a persona, we call this false self persona, here in order to cope with reality. We have to go to work, we have to pay our bills, we have to do this, we have to be kind, we have to be, all these things basically create a lot of stress in us, and that is where this control reactivity comes from. Okay, so our mantra here in this world right now is we have to control, and you can see this in the dogma and the propaganda, in all the things that are bombarding us right now, trying to tell us what is right and what is wrong. All right, and the perception of how our life is, that is underlying this lower vibratory state, is that life isn't really determined by me. I have to be in a certain way in order to what? In order to feel connected, in order to feel fulfilled, in order to express, or at least feel the freedom to express who I am. And if I am in this constant state of control, all right, outer control, and as a counter movement from within, pushing against it and needing to find ways to be in more control, all right, then it's only a matter of time, especially when our physical, say, gets a little low, or when we feel a little when we had a failure, when our relationships don't go well. There's something on the outside when we feel a lot of resistance here, that we end up sort of going in this life is a struggle attitude towards our life, and it leads us into pessimism, it leads us into anxiety, because we no longer feel in control. And if we continue to let this happen, then we are literally aligning ourselves to a mindset, to a belief system that reconfirms that life is actually happening to me. I am not an active participant in my life. Life is happening to me. And this can then, of course, if we, don't do anything about this, go all the way to this apathetic place where, we don't no longer believe that life is worth living. And these are, of course, there's many different emotional and intellectual and physical expressions of these states. But it's really important to understand what's underlying a low vibe energy, and that is that it is not life embracing, it is not life supporting. Okay, so we feel, like Amanda said, dark, and we feel, it feels really, really contractive. So truth is basically the neutral state here that allows us to recognize this, and that allows us to shift this belief, to shift our attitude towards life. And that's when things happen, guys. That's where your power is as a conscious self, all right? You can learn how to, qualify your energy. You can learn how to identify your state, and you can recognize this, and you can say, wow, I'm like really pessimistic right now. Wow, I'm like really stressed out. I'm trying to push into my life, and I'm trying to control everything, and I'm not even realizing how this is wearing me out, how this is a lot of stress, and how this, due to the stress that is inflicted on our system, wears down my energetic immune system. It makes me more and more susceptible to outer energies. So this is the one thing, guys, that I want you to remember from all this talk here, is that the lower your vibe, the more susceptible you become to outer energies. The more affected you are by other people's energies, by the collective energetic weather conditions, or by, what your husband or your girlfriend or your co-worker, what they say to you. The lower your vibe, the more these things can latch on and affect your life force. Okay, so all of you out there that as empaths or energetically sensitives have already recognized that you are susceptible to these things, and that the world is full of people who, project a lot of stuff and who bombard you with things. And some people are benign because they're just unaware of it. 95% of people out there are unaware of what their energy actually exerts. All right. But, 5% are not. All right. They do this on purpose, keyword narcissist, exploitative personality types. Okay. So being caught in a low vibe, guys, means that you are now basically allowing yourself to become prey, and prey, and not just in this sort of social sense, with people who are preying or prying on people who are giving up their life force. Also, of course, dark forces, and this is where a lot of you guys get stuck. All right, those of you who have a little heightened perception and see energies maybe in a fuzzy way, or have these energetic visions, all right, where they see things happening, this is where the fear of these outer energies, be it, however you contextualized it, all right, astral stuff, etheric stuff, or the energies of other people. When you get stuck in that place that the world is hostile, and that everything is out there to get me, well, what are you doing? You are energizing, this apathetic place in you. You're energizing lower vibes. And this is very, very important. It's only really the courage to be yourself and to stand for yourself, to know your own energy, and to make choices about what you ingest. Remember, we talked about high vibe decision making here a few weeks back. So go back to the truth talks about high vibe nutrition, high vibe relationships, or read the blogs on transcodes.com, where I write a lot about high vibe living. Okay, what this actually means. It means that you choose what you let in. And if you are susceptible, if you notice that you are susceptible to things, well, then you got to focus on your etheric or energetic immune system becoming stronger. Just like how when we keep on getting sick, all right, it's not the fault of the germs, it's the problem is that our immune system is too low. All right, that we are maybe focusing on the wrong things, or eating the wrong foods, or not doing what is good for us, not enough that we can withstand those outer attacks, this outer bombardment of germs. And we are talking here in energetic sense of outer energies. So I want you guys to understand that being caught in a lower vibe, okay, is ultimately your choice. There are conditions such as trauma and so forth that bypass, this our cognition, in the sense that we don't feel we have a choice, and we actually don't, because it's hardwired into our physical. All right, then we have to start at a slightly lower state, okay, to reconnect with the part in us that can up our vibe. And what is that part? It's our life force. The problem with lower states is that we can't feel our life force. So when we are very low, we have to basically address it in a physical sense, because we have to literally get our energy moving. We have to bring motion into our energy. Emotion, all right? So we got to feel that there's something there again. And even if it's a negative emotion, but that's better than a complete numbness or checking out, okay? And then we need to learn how to deal with those emotions, how to allow them, that there are no negative or positive emotions. That's complete BS, guys. It's part of our condition. It's a lower vibratory part of our condition, but that's all right. Okay, we just learn to accept that we are in certain emotional states, learn to express them, preferably the higher, the healthier expressions, and then we allow our energy to increase in energetic power, so to speak. And that's then the very definition of healing, guys. The definition of healing is when our energy rises from a lower to a higher state relative to the state that we were caught in. So really all you got to remember when you are caught in a lower state is what you need to do in order to get out of it. All right. And you don't always need to know what has caused it. All right. This fixation on the why that's coming from your mind, okay, as if it would change anything, is irrelevant. Sometimes, of course, it can help to do a little bit of psychic detective work, as we call this here at transCODES, where you look at the dynamics and the interactions. But you don't have to be a physicist or psychologist or a medical doctor to qualify this. You have the ability to qualify this within yourself. And you know what gives you that ability? It's your energetic sensitivity. Your energetic sensitivity tells you when something feels shitty, when it feels cringy, when it feels bad for you. All right. And it also shows you when things are feeling expansive for you, when they motivate you, when they when they drive you into wanting to go into the higher expression of things. That's what your energetic sensitivity is for, guys. It's your eighth sense that allows you to qualify energies. That's all that is. And we all have that ability. We've just never trained it. So my plea to all of you guys here, no matter where all these low vibes are coming from, is to learn to discern energies within your state, in yourself, and to see everything as a state, to no longer identify with where you're at, or to point fingers and say, oh, I feel so shitty because I talked to my mother-in-law or I went to my work. Yeah, sure, these things all have to do with this, but your job is to become a self-master. Your job is to go into this self-responsibility with what you choose to allow in on all levels. All right, so that's the part here that I really want to motivate within yourself, because that can clearly shift how you see energies and how you see yourself experiencing certain things. When you are in a lower state, guys, you're going to be more pessimistic, and all the options, all the solutions that come up through your mind will be restricted. And when you are in a higher vibratory place, you're going to be more optimistic. You're going to be more embracing. You look forward. You're curious to learning. You look forward to experiencing and witnessing your life. And solutions that come to you will have this life embracing alignment in them. All right. So you've noticed I haven't even used the word divine here once, talking about energies, because this isn't really a spiritual thing. Now, when it comes to really high vibratory states, that is something that can or that needs to include our spiritual alignment, that needs to include the views that come in through recognizing that there is a life force, sort of a higher intelligence that runs the whole show here, okay, that is coming in. And that's then what we call source or divine. And this is the part here when we go through this spiritual emergence, when we recognize that there's something like that in us. And here at transCODES, I use the term true self to describe this this awareness that there is something like a divine or source energy going through me. And this is then what can help us to hold these higher vibratory places, because if we get stuck in seeing ourselves just as a body with a soul, that means that we align too much to the material, to the 3D-ness of ourselves. And 3D-ness, guys, like seeing ourselves as this, sort of finite body, all right, that gets older and older and degrades. It really triggers this ego in us, or the survival patterns in us, and coping. All right, so it's the core of our human dualism, the core of our inner split. All right, and to overcome that, long term, it requires a spiritual perspective. There are some cool comments and questions that are coming in here, guys, and I really want to encourage you to ask about how to out-vibrate specific lower vibratory states. Becky is commenting, there are times when it feels that like I'm in multiple energetic states at once. Like they seem to change very quickly and it feels difficult to understand what is needed. Thank you, Becky, for asking this question, because this is really something that can lead to us being confused or us sort of giving up on ourselves because we don't feel in control of this. It's not important to really be in this place of absolute control over this. It's really just important to increase the connection, the connectivity with ourselves. How am I truly feeling right now? Yes, I might be feeling low, like say, qualified as my body feels low. I don't know about you guys, but one of the things that can really trigger me to go low is when my body doesn't work right. When I feel heavy, or when I have a headache, or when I feel tired. This is something that can trigger all kinds of pessimism in me, and all of a sudden, all people are bad, and and everything is on my nerves, and and that leads to emotional reactivity, and then emotional reactivity leads to all kinds of trouble. Getting in trouble with my kids, or it influences my life view in the sense that I can go really low, really fast. All right. But the truth aspect of this is the choice aspect of this is to stop myself and to ask myself, wait a minute. Is this my higher reality right now, or is this my lower reality? Is this really true? How am I truly feeling? And then, I go into, maybe the things that I know that I love. All right. And look, just for the heck of it, just for the fun of it, look at things when you're low, look at things that you really love. You'll hear an onslaught of thoughts in you that tell you how stupid that is, and how terrible that is, and how that isn't even lovable. Yourself, of course, as well. Okay, you can literally see it's like a negativity overlay, even the things that you truly love. And that's the part here that we need to discipline within ourselves, to stop it for a moment and say, wait a minute, is this really how I feel about things? And then there is something that I've mentioned before, Becky, and that is the connection with our unmet needs. So very often, okay, we go into a lower state because our needs are not met, or they're not being expressed, which can include freedom, which can include things that we want to do but we don't seem to be able to do, or they don't seem to work out. All right, then we have to qualify this in the sense that we become more honest with ourselves and say, I feel shitty right now because nothing that I try seems to work out, and maybe there's something I'm not seeing, maybe I'm just not adequate, maybe I'm really messing this up right now. This is honesty with ourselves. But the truth of that can bring back the power to choose. Maybe I need to change something. Yes, you have a strong critical inner voice. This overlay of negativity here sitting on our right shoulder, slithering around our neck and whispering in our ears all these negative self-beliefs and sabotaging patterns and so forth. Yeah, but that needs to be a part of your responsibility, of your self-responsibility, to no longer energize this. Of course, it takes a little practice to get through, what causes all this negative inner talk. And we do this here at transCODES and other places, such as therapy and coaching and so forth, can help you with this, to recognize where this is coming from. And you'll find out that most of that isn't even yours. It's sort of tapes that are playing in your head, recordings from the past. And there's techniques to overcome this. But at the end of the day, you don't have to know where it's coming from. You just have to ask yourself, is this really expressing how I see myself, how I see life. And if you are so low that you say yes, okay, then I want you to understand that you say yes to the negativity, to the life degradation that is in those negative thoughts and feelings and life views, okay, then I want you to understand that that means that your energy system is no longer in your control. You are literally being hijacked. And there's a lot of people out there who are afraid of other, like possession and stuff like that, demonic forces. Yeah, those things are all real, but it's often not true. When you are in this really, really low place where you agreeing with lower vibes, sort of spreading in you, okay, that means that you've chosen that. And this isn't about blame here. This isn't about judgment, guys. It's very important for you to understand. The one thing that can get us out of a lower vibe, okay, depending on how low it is, sometimes we have to we approach it physically first, or we have to approach it emotionally first, and so forth. We can talk this at other times, and I want you to let me know, which of these lower states you'd be interested in hearing, sort of strategies, how to get out of this energetically. But the one thing that we need to remember is that it is what we align to. It is what we agree to. It is what we allow, okay, into our system that determines how we feel about ourselves. So the main strategies here overall are, of course, truth talk with yourself, self-awareness, because self-awareness can show you your motivation, okay? We have often different motivations than we think we do, and even if we suffer, we might have motivations, alternative motivations, alternative agendas, such as, attention gaining, or, getting commiseration or pity and so forth, that, make us feel better about our suffering. But that is a lower vibratory energy that we are feeding or fueling within ourselves. The second step of learning how to out-vibrate lower vibes is to really go into mindfulness, is to learn how to stop, how to silence our mind, is learn how to respond rather than to react. And of course, there's limitations to that when we have trauma and so forth. Mindfulness cannot really help. We cannot meditate things away, guys. This is a huge misconception in this sort of spiritual New Age scene, that you can meditate things away. No, meditation and mindfulness is there for you to, silence the negativity in you so that you can actually hear, or feel the life force in you again. It's like a clearing technique, all right? And then the third thing is to qualify all this, to go into self-mastery and to recognize, okay, I'm in a really low state. This should be a state where I better don't make any decisions right now, okay? Because if I'm in a low state and I make a decision or a choice in a lower state, that choice was based on this lower state. So it's typically a bad choice, all right? And then the fourth stage to that, where we go into like a more of a self-discovery place, where we're saying, this is really interesting, how all this has been translating in my life, and I can see this now. So what is now my higher goal? My higher goal is to be free of that. My higher goal is to be connected more with my heart, to be connected more with other people. I want to feel more fulfillment. I want to feel purpose. I want to know that I have a meaning. All right. And that comes in through soulfulness, where we recognize that we're actually not a body with a soul, but a soul with a body, a soul that has a human 3D experience. Okay. And then the last step is really, and this is something that I want to motivate you guys here listening to me, to really go into this energetic self-awareness so that you can become someone who can embody this, all right? So when you know that you are low, you should refrain from certain things. Yes, you should, discipline yourself on, say the lower expressions, because every time you choose to go into the lower expression of something, you're energizing this lower state in you. Okay, until you can feel truth again, until you can be honest with you again. And then you can work on trampolining your way up all the way to freedom, love, compassion, and fulfillment. All right, and feel more connected with yourself. So the biggest the problem here is that when we go low, we feel less connected, and when we are less connected, we can connect less. All right, the remedy to lower vibes is to connect more. Okay, so your job here as an energetic self master and someone who can embody this, all right, is to qualify this within yourself and to find out what these things are that can help you to actively raise your vibe. Okay, and not according to some kind of new age school or belief or any kind of belief systems. Why not? Because when you're in a lower state, your belief systems are crap. Okay, they're not even yours. You wouldn't even know. Okay, all you can really relate to and rely on, okay, is how you're truly feeling, what you truly need, and what you truly want. And if you cannot feel what you're feeling, if you cannot feel what you want, if you cannot feel what you need, that means you're in a lower state permanently. So, Becky, sorry, was a very long answer, but the perception that things are fluctuating so fast that you don't really know is a very typical sign of an awakening person. Okay, so you align yourself to truth. You have moments where this truth is shining through and you're beginning to see all this, but your energy is still sort of out of habit, out of patterns. This is a longer process of reprogramming, recoding ourselves energetically. You're flip-flopping back and forth. It's very, very normal, and I don't want you guys to judge this in any way. This is another of these new age misconceptions, guys. Being in a lower state is not bad. Okay, it just is. All right, that's like saying when it's cold out, it's bad. No, it's just cold out. Okay, and whether you're freezing or whether you're suffering from the cold, that depends on you. That depends on the clothing that you put on. That depends on your awareness and how you want to see it. But if you believe that being in a lower state is bad, you are taking away the opportunity for you to change it. That's why I always call lower state an invitation, all right, to grow, an invitation to learn how to up your vibes. That's very important for you. That's very important for you to understand. Being low means that your energy is temporarily caught in a lower vibratory state. And all this means is that you now need to stop whatever it is that you're energizing, all right, and consciously choose to up your vibe, whatever this is. This can be listening to music. This can be taking a walk in nature. I recommend this to anybody at any time. It's one of the fastest ways, to up your vibes. This can be talking to a friend, loving your dog or your cat or your kids, baking cookies. That's what it is for me. Can immediately reconnect me with myself. All right. This is what you need to do when you're caught in a low vibratory state. Forget all this, oh my God, I'm so bad, and oh, this is bad, and I shouldn't be feeling this way. This is all complete dogma bullshit that keeps you in a lower state. Judging your emotions, judging your states, guys, is an infiltration of your belief system. If you want to outvibrate lower vibes, you're going to have to renew the commitment to yourself, the faith in yourself. And if you don't know who that self is, your true self, then just do that for a while. Focus on connecting with your true self. Focus on connecting how you truly feel. My approach is always see it as like a scientist, see it as a self-discovery journey, have a notepad on your kitchen counter, all right, and just protocol it, just observe it, okay? Observing helps. Later, then the higher vibratory expression of observing is witnessing, all right? You can let it go through you, you know what it does to you, but you choose not to let it pull you down. Okay, here's a question. It seems unrelated, but it's actually not. What can we do to stimulate our pineal gland? Okay, just for those of you here who are relatively new to energy awareness, pineal gland is supposedly the organ in us that sits sort of right here between our ears and our eyes. Okay, so like in there, our third eye, the proverbial third eye. Okay, the organ in us that is somehow connected or related to our energetic perceptivity. This is a notion that I cannot really support. We do not really have to stimulate our pineal gland, all right? Yes, there are things in our life, and through choices, through foods and so forth, that can so-called calcify our pineal gland. But for the most part, the fact that you are seeing yourself as an energetically sensitive person actually means that there's nothing wrong with your pineal gland. There are yogi traditions and so forth, and in ancient mystic schools, there are a lot of traditions that increase your pineal gland, but quite frankly, those are all coming from a time where this energetic veil around the planet, and the collective was much thicker, and it's much more permeable right now. We don't really need a lot to actually tune into our energetic perceptivity. What's more important, and way, way more important, is to learn to qualify, is to learn to discern what it actually is that you're seeing or experiencing with your third eye. Okay, we have to learn how to vision. We have to learn how to align ourselves to this visionary self-growth. Because when we are tuning into these etheric realms of our being and the information that is there, we need a different decoder in us. We can no longer use our brain to do this. We have to use our heart field for this, our heart consciousness, okay? And this requires us to align ourselves differently before we can even go out there and, do all this etheric visioning. Those of you on Instagram, I'm going to lose you here in 1 minute, so I'm going to end the recording for you a little earlier. So the qualification of that requires you to learn how to discern, and what it means, it means you need to be in truth. If you're not in truth, whatever it is that you're seeing through your third eye is false, okay? And most people, like be it pot smoking or ayahuasca ceremonies or whatever, where you force your pineal gland into the foreground. Okay, you're not. It's not actually the pineal gland, but it's the third eye perception into the foreground. Can experience extremely traumatic things because you get anxious, you feel overwhelmed by what you're seeing there because you cannot discern it. So here at transCODES, I offer training for that. How to actually navigate these astral realms and how to discern what it is that you're seeing. So this idea that you just need to activate your pineal gland to see more is completely false. It's one of those false exits of New Age, and just another way, guys, to trap you in your inner dogma of low vibes. All right. Instagram, I'm saying goodbye to you. Those of you on Facebook, Astrid is asking, what is the difference of connection with the true self and meditation? Isn't going into myself and connecting with my true self a kind of meditation? Well, those are actually two different questions, Astrid. Connecting within through meditation is the pathway. That is the pathway to silence your mind. This is the first problem that we have to overcome, to silence this ongoing thinkingness that our mind is designed to do. And it picks up the majority of those thoughts actually from the collective unconscious. So that is the first discipline that we have to learn, and we use meditation for that. And I just want to make a shout out here to all of you guys out there who have a hard time with meditating, and you can't make your mind turn off. It took me 20 years. 20 years. I was in martial arts class when I was a kid at 8 years old, and they started the class with 5-minute meditation, and I thought this was the worst thing ever. It took me 20 years to overcome this, till my late 20s, early 30s, all right, and really understand that you cannot really tell yourself, stop thinking, okay? That creates sort of a feedback loop, and then all you can do is think. So meditation and mindfulness is really there to lower, all these things that come in through our 3D-ness, all right? This doesn't necessarily mean that you're automatically connecting with your true self. Connecting with your true self is a whole different layer of that. That requires you to actually connect with this heart navigator that I talked about, all right? So as a consequence of silencing the mind, the mental mind, the cognitive mind, okay, you're beginning to experience yourself in a different way. You're beginning to experience your heart mind. And that is then what facilitates you to actually connect with your true self more, to communicate with your true self, and actually have access to this higher inner guidance. This is really what we do here with the future self training and so forth, to really go into this place where you recognize that time and space is an illusion, and you can actually feel it, and you can connect with your past, with your present, and your future self at the same time, because that's what our true self is. It has no time, it has no space. All times are now, guys. All spaces, all places are here. The only time where anything could be changed is in the now. All right. Very cool question, Astrid. Thank you. And guys, we're going to have to come to an end here. Please continue commenting and asking questions in regards to this. Let me know subjects that you would like to cover here in the Sunday Truth Talk. I picked the subjects based on current collective energies. So the energy tips for this week are called higher or lower reality. And as you can tell, it refers to a lot of the things that we've illuminated here today. All right. I want to thank you so much for coming. Please share the videos, okay? I've just become aware of my difficulties to break through some of these social media barriers. And it is in the life of every YouTuber or a person like myself who goes out there, does podcasts and so forth. There comes a point where we have to decide, if we want more followers or if we want to stay true to ourselves, to our own values. And I decided that I am not going to lower my standards. I'm not going to do things just so that I get more followers, which means I depend on those of you here, who can already feel the resonance of truth through this, to help me, share the videos, to help bring this to other people who are in the need of this higher vibratory message. All right. Thank you so much. See you next Sunday, same time. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you for your hearts. It's awesome. Love it.